And welcome to Chapter 4, getting into 3D layers and some other cool things we're going to go do in this chapter. But I wanted to kind of show you something very basic within 3D, and this one has the added text with a layer of light and camera movement. So I'm going to go ahead and play through this just to kind of show you. Didn't do too much in this just because of the rendering. It takes a while to render just this little bit. But as you can see, now we're in that 3D world. And again, this is very basic, but stuff that you can do within 3D animation. So what I'm going to do is getting started with the text. We're going to go ahead and create a new composition. And I'm going to call this, let's just say, 3D world. We'll call it the 3D world. And I'll keep all the settings the same, although I really don't need 15 seconds, so I'll just do, we'll do 10 seconds. And keep the white background. And so here we are in this. And knowing that within what we've been working so far, we've been really doing everything in 2D. And these basic objects that you manipulate in After Effects are your flat, two-dimensional from side to side. We haven't seen anything with adding the 3D from front to back. And everything that we have been doing and everything that you will, all effects are 2D, including your effects that simulate, 3D distortion. So I think some of you have used some of your perception, or if we look at, let's go up to some of the effects when we get into your perspective. So even like looking at ones like this, when we get into the sphere, these again are two-dimensional. So when you get in the 3D plane, they're still going to be two-dimensional. But getting into 3D, or basic 3D, you would make a 3D layer. The layer itself remains flat, but it gains additional properties. So I'm going to go ahead and show you really quick, create some text, and you bet I'm guess many of you are gonna guess what I'm gonna text or write, and that's right, it's text. I'm very basic. You know what? I'm gonna flip it up. I'm gonna write. Oh, look at that, changing it up. Maybe that'll probably be a quiz. So whoever's watching right now will probably get that little credit. And go ahead, take off my caps. Go ahead and center that up. All right, so we, as you can tell, when we open up this, let me go ahead and drag this up, if I can grab it. If we go ahead and drop this down, our transform, we notice that we have our X and Y properties. Now, if we come up here, so we've dealt with motion blur, and going into this third one, this is your 3D layer. This allows the layers to be manipulated in your 3 dimensions. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, and if we noticed right there in that change, we had a couple different things that pop up underneath our transform. So it's going to add our Z axis. All right, this is our Z plane, which now allows us to go from all the way in the back to the front. So, let's go ahead and change this position. So if I notice, I'm sending it all the way in the back, and again, sending it to the front. So this is something many of you are probably like, oh yeah, I've noticed that, with doing the faux scale, when you would maybe make the size bigger. But here's where it gets kind of cool. We can now, okay, yeah, we can still rotate this way, but if we want to say, how do I want to rotate? So now if I rotate on the Y, I can now spin it and add a little bit of change to it. All right, so that's something that will allow you that you couldn't do before, because before you were, again, you could rotate on your X, but now see all this rotation that I'm allowed because of those added, Z plane. And something else we'll look at in a little bit is the material options. When we go ahead and add a camera and a light, we'll look at those. But again, just to know that that was added along with your Z of all these rotations, the orientation, and the Z plane for what's going on up here in your 3D. So that's one way if we look at how to create 3D very quickly. And to know that, we can convert it to this 3D by checking on this box. We can also just bring it back to regular 2D by deselecting that box. So that's something really quick if you want to look at that. But I'm going to go ahead and create it 3D again. And if we look at this, if we have this selected and we go up to animate, we're going to be able to animate text per character. So if I want to, again, looking at the, if we go into our text and change it, we can go ahead and change per character just like we did with your animate features before. So if I said, I want to do position and go down here to the position, we now have the same where I could, change this position and again go from start to end, have it right in, and which I did with the text before. I was just having it drop and come in. So that's something, again, adding that per character uh, to choose that for your animation. Moving in a little bit forward, I know I was kind of jumping for a few things you should know already, but something that you're going to notice is these access points, or the axes, and they're colored with the specific color. So red right here is your x-axis, so we can see that I've got that to where if I grab that, I can move it around on the x-axis. The green is your y-axis, and the blue is your z-axis. So it's a little bit different to do it within this shape or this view, but I don't want to jump into different views yet. But just to know how to get that, and if you ever wanted to, remove that, all we have to do is go up to View, go down here to Show Layer Controls. We can take that off, and now again, we're kind of only limited within our X and Y space on this side, but we can still move around. But if we want to bring that back, just go back up to View, Show Layer Controls, and that's back on there to allow us to move around as we see fit for this. So that's pretty much all I'm going to show for this video, but we're going to continue on with our next video looking at 3D layers by adding a light source to it. So we're going to be looking at that and then going into camera, so we're staying in our 3D world.